Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to Leadership Lessons. Now, today I want to share a concept about intuition. Now, this concept comes from a book by a gentleman called Michael Heppel, and the book is called The Edge. And one of the things that he points out to in relation to intuition is that every aspect of your life is linked to intuition. Now, that may sound quite startling for some of you that may be listening to this, but it really is true. And I want you to think about this from a very broad aspect, because intuition affects every part of our life. And we usually see it in the world of hindsight, right? Hindsight is where we usually see it. So when you think about it, it's health. So health is an aspect of our lives that's governed by intuition. And it's usually showing some level of remorse when we don't do something that we know we should be doing. Relationships are another area of hindsight, falling in love with someone at first sight, not making the move, for example, not asking the question, not asking for the dance, or related to our own intuition. The regret that we have, which sometimes can harbor for a life. Why didn't I ask that girl in grade 10 to dance with me? Part of that is intuition, because it's our intuition that wants it to happen that we didn't act upon. Finding relationships, the concept around love at first sight, and not being brave, courageous enough to step into that. Businesses, there's a lot of intuition that's involved around business, whether it's the wrong business relationship, values that don't align, choosing the wrong team member, having a gut feel about someone, even though that their qualifications may indicate that they're the ideal candidate. What about parenting? There's another aspect of our lives that is absolutely governed by intuition. So we look at friendships. Yeah, is another area. Sometimes things are just awkward, aren't they, between some people? Sometimes we don't say what we should be saying, what that we feel we should be saying. Money, absolutely. How many times have we seen an offer that we think is just too good to be true? How many times have we done that? And safety. We all get a bit of a sense when something's not safe. When we're close to the edge, we get a bit creepy crawly in the skin and whatnot. So that's all intuition. That's all coming to us in the form of intuition. And unfortunately, because we don't act on it, often we don't pick it up until it's hindsight. So it's a really interesting concept, isn't it? Because we're not acting on our gut feel. We're not acting on our intuition. So therefore, what we're doing, and when we first recognize it, is when we say, yeah, I really should have done something about that, which is a horrible feeling to take through our lives. So highly intuitive people rarely speak of hindsight. Okay? Take that on board. Highly intuitive people rarely speak of hindsight. They are quick to feel, and they're quick to make decisions. And they seem to make decisions easy, don't they? People with that gut feel that can respond to it, that can act on it. They seem to know when it's right or when it's wrong. Now, in the book, Heppel describes an intuition grid. And this is going to be really quite complex for me to share with you from an oral perspective without actually showing the grid, but I'm hopeful that I can do it. So on the bottom axis of the grid, that indicates, say, common sense to insight. So we've got common sense and we've got insight left to right, common sense to insight. And on the left axis, we've got low and high frequency. So whether something's a low reverberation for us, a low frequency around our intuition, or whether it's a high frequency. And the way that he describes the use of the grid is probably going to make a lot more sense than what I've just described with the grid. So where we've got someone who's in the common sense quadrant and low frequency, so down the left-hand bottom of the grid, these persons, the people here, wouldn't be described as being very intuitive at all. They rarely make decisions, and they use data and plenty of it. In fact, they'll often snowball themselves with data before they make a decision. So instead of acting on intuition and acting quickly and effectively and easily, they rely on data, and the more data, the better. And one of their favorite sayings is, "I don't know," which is giving them an excuse not to use their own intuition. Then when we're looking down the left-hand side and we're looking at someone who's in the common sense but high frequency, and once again, this person eats up data and takes in knowledge easily. And usually what they've got is this data-filled spreadsheet. So they take data to the next level, but they've got a high frequency, actually can make decisions. But the other thing about this person is that they can look at a lot of data and summarize it really quickly. So they can look at a profit and loss spreadsheet and they can pull out the 3 or 4 key figures and indicate whether a business is in trouble or whether a business is going incredibly successfully. So they make decisions with a little bit more ease because they've got that high frequency approach to the data. Then along the bottom of the graph, we've got insight. So we're looking at people with insight but low frequency. These people have moments of genius, and when they do have their aha moments, they're usually because they look back on how right they were. Right, so they've had an intuitive thought, didn't act on it, and then ultimately they look back because they've operated at a low frequency. They look back and they realize that, hey, I was right. But that doesn't make much sense if you haven't actually acted on your intuition, on your gut feel. Unfortunately, in this case, it indicates they've got good insight and they've got good intuition, but they rarely use it. So, and maybe you're one of those people.
I'm not sure I understand.
And I've just got Siri telling me she doesn't understand. So it's all good. But it is, it indicates they've got good insight. They've just got to learn how to use it and how to trust it, more importantly. And then right up in the top right-hand corner, we've got people who have insight and they've got high frequency. And these people are often using their intuition and making decisions based on their feelings and their gut feel. They've got this uncanny knack of being able to visualize future events and outcomes and act on gut instinct. So we've got a graph. The bottom left is really rarely making decisions around using our instinct, our intuition, our gut feel. And the people in the top right corner are very adept at making decisions based around gut feeling and gut instinct and learning to listen and trust and act on their intuition. So what are some of the things that you can do to listen in and act on your intuition? And sometimes, depending where you are on the graph, of course, or on the grid, I'd encourage you all to look up that intuition grid. I'm sure that you would be able to find that out on Google somewhere by, and as I said, it's from a book from Michael Heppel called The Edge. Sometimes it's going to be about keeping score because, as I said, most of us don't realize or recognize our intuition until we're seeing it in hindsight and realizing how effective our intuition actually is. So sometimes it's going to be about keeping a score of the times that our intuition, our gut feeling has proved right through hindsight. And once we can acknowledge that, we can then start to unearth the reasons why it's blocking you. So is it fear? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it being risk averse? Whatever it is, once we've discovered how good your intuition is, it's then about trying to uncover your blocks as to why you're not using it more. Often we're getting told by people, don't rely on your gut feel, don't rely on intuition. People in a recruitment process are looking at things like qualifications. They're asking behavioral type questions. They're looking at experience. And yet someone could be sitting at that. If you've got 2 interviewers, one could be sitting there with very good intuition, very good gut feel, or even, the reverse, not a good feeling about this particular person. The data is actually backing up a decision to be made either way. And maybe your gut feel is saying completely the opposite. So this is about learning how good your gut feel, how good your intuition is in hindsight, getting a scorecard up for your own benefit. This is why I'm putting this through as a leadership lesson, so that in hindsight, you can start to believe and have faith and have trust in your instinct, in your intuition, in your gut feeling. So we've got to find out how good it is. We're going to do that through hindsight. And then you need to find out what is stopping you. Is it other people? Is it fear? Is it lack of confidence? Or are you indeed risk averse? Whatever that may be, you've got to look at that. We've got to uncover that. And then we've got to put together an action plan that's going to help you utilize your intuition. So we use self-reflection to understand. We bring about new habits and reflections that will then help us trust intuition. Take it slowly is my encouragement, but make sure you record the wins and you take the wins when you start to listen in and act on your intuition. The more you can listen, the more you can act, the more you'll learn to trust. And that's part of being a great leader. I hope you've enjoyed leadership lessons today. Thanks for tuning in, and I will definitely see you next week.